welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland, and for today's episode, well, I think I have a conversation for us that is pretty sweet. Today's guest is Mikey McGold, a writer, voice actor, editor, and cartoon enthusiast, having a hand in so many projects while also leading the charge for his own indie animated series, FUNEMPLOYED. Mikey is a good friend that I've gotten to know in this indie animation community, and it's been really cool to see him grow. So to get him on the podcast, well, it was a matter of time, and I'm so glad we were able to finally do it. If you enjoy Mikey, make sure you support him with the links down in the description below, especially for the Indiegogo for FUNEMPLOYED. We'll talk a lot more about it in the episode, but seriously, at the time of we're recording, we're less than $1,000 away from hitting their goal. So please, if you can, do us all a favor, either donate today or at least spread the word so that we can get FUNEMPLOYED the funding that it needs. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know I see that stuff, and you know it genuinely warms my heart. If you want to go a little further with that support, may I recommend checking out the merch shop at fourthwall.com. We have some fantastic apparel that are done by some former guests of the podcast that you would look amazing in today. And look, if all you want is a nice, cool, casual place to where you can meet some of the other artists, really get to grow as a community, and really have some fun, may I recommend you check out our Discord server, the Artist Sanctuary. We've already developed a great group there. Plus, with Art Fight going on this month, we've already got the competition heating up very, very subtly. So you could certainly meet some of the fellow competitors you could attack in there. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast.
If you have any questions for me beforehand or anything like that before we begin,
I should be. Well, I already let you know about.
I'm very familiar with your podcast. I've watched a bunch of episodes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
I can only think of like a good couple that. Well, I'll just go and ask. What were some of the ones that were just like your favorite right off the bat? Just thinking of, or the ones you enjoyed.
Well, actually, funnily enough, you did one with Jacob Behrens.
Yes.
Who, he voices Strike on Monkey Wrench, and that guy is actually now my voiceover coach.
Oh, okay. So, nice little connection right there.
So, yeah, you kind of put me on that. And then, of course, I've seen the ones, you did one with Naomi of the Sunny Side, who's a friend of mine, so yes. I watched hers.
I need to get in touch with them again and do a new one because it has been a long while, and we talked about it here and there, but yeah.
And of course, Sir Pedro, who I just met a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, just there's just a lot. Like I just got I've seen a ton. I'm lightheaded from the sun.
No, honestly,
I hope that's gonna make the reaction experience a little better. That's why I got water, and I was like, this one might have been a stupid idea, but we'll see.
Hydrate before you dihydrate, okay?
That's what I mean, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
but I do appreciate the support, especially like over the past like couple of years or whatnot, because I know we've like messaged back and forth with each other here.
Yeah, I attempted to do what you did, and I was like, oh hell no! No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to get that off the ground. It's just hard to balance school, a job, and a podcast, which is why I really commend you, and which is why I felt bad about like coming in last minute, because I'll be honest with you. I am a very modest person, but the one thing I was a little egotistical about is that someone's bound to ask me for an interview eventually, right? Like, come on, I don't gotta come and be like, please get me on for the love of God. But it was like that kind of.
Well, no, it honestly wasn't like that. It was kind of because it's not like you. I have had people that I've had no connection with whatsoever, just straight up, just like cold message me, being like, "Hey, I think I'd be cool on your podcast or whatnot," and I'm just like. No, that's not how it works. But like again, we're familiar with each other. I remember the conversations I had with you whenever you were trying to get the podcast off the ground, and I sincerely hope if you can find the time, you get a chance to do it again.
I'm gonna try to get back on track now that I'm done with college at the moment. What I want to try to do is I want to try to record a ton in summer, then edits, and then I release them bi-weekly. So that way I think 'cause the hardest thing is like committing.
That's
like,
that's
I
smart.
realized this. This is like good material that everyone wastes, but it's like, I realize this, but like, hosting a podcast is like a podcast, a commitment is the equivalent. Like, this is the fat man's gym. In the sense where it's just like, you're committing to the gym, where it's just like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you know what I mean? If you can't handle like working out at least like twice a week, then you're not going to get on the microphone and be like, "Hey, everybody, welcome to my podcast."
I have never heard it compared like that, but now I'm always going to compare it to that.
The nerds version of going to the gym. It's the nerds version. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is like. Yeah.
Also, I was gonna say, you were saying like this is good material for later. If it helps, I have been recording this little intro bit because I use it to like sync up my audio and stuff like that. So can I include this? Can I include this as part of the podcast leading into it? Okay,
absolutely,
perfect.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Excellent. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, with what you're talking about, that's a smart way of doing it. Just try to like load up as much as I can. To be fair, like, so a couple weeks back, I went to my first convention. I went to MomoCon.
Congratulations! I am very envious.
You'll get there someday, I promise, okay?
Someday.
But I had like a blast and I met all this kind of stuff. So like beforehand, leading up to it, I wanted to make sure I recorded as many podcasts as I can or whatnot, because I knew that like that weekend and maybe the weekend after, I was just going to be dead. I knew just ahead of time I was going to be just busy with the con or just dead from the con. And I was right. So luckily with all that stuff that I planned with that, as well as, what I've been doing after the fact or whatnot, with the episodes that I've recorded now, I'm good all the way up to like mid-July after we record this episode. So
see, that's how you have to do it. You know what I mean? Like like the way I approached it at first is like, I'll just record one once a week because they're like easy to edit.
Yeah, that's what you think.
and then like I got like 2.5 done, and then I was like, oh yeah, right, I need to make money. And then so it was just like, I was like at school for like 5 days working 6 days.
Yep.
So, and like the last day was just for crashing. So at the time I started Indiemation really like prematurely, like in the sense that like I picked up a job and like I was like working school and like I could not get my hours cut because I was working in retail, which you work at a grocery store. That's where you go to die emotionally.
That's where you ain't even add the emotional part. That's just where you go to die.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I realized about retail is that's where you go to that's when you go to die emotionally, but not physically. So you get a head start. So that way, when you do die, it's like, well, whatever. It's when at least I don't got to stock like Campbell soup anymore.
I say I got a buddy named Bill Callis that I've held on the podcast previously or whatnot. I know he relates so perfectly with that mentality.
Yeah, no, it's tough. My favorite movie of all time is Kevin Smith's Clerks because it's just a movie about like, and it's aged like really well in the sense that like, yeah, retail still sucks, and it's like so the job itself isn't bad, but it's the customers. So, no, when I saw that movie, that's what made me quit that job.
Oh, okay.
That and two things. That and there was this guy who was in the break room, this older gentleman, nice guy, never said anything. But no matter when I took my break, no matter when I went to that room, that guy was sitting in the same spot, like doing nothing. Right. So we would joke around, me and my coworkers would just say like, that guy took his like break like 60 years ago and just forgot like that, so he's just been sitting there. And then I think we joked around about it, you know what I mean? Not like, like poking fun about it.
Right.
And then my coworker was like, well, dude, that could be you one day. And I was like,
oh,
I put my 2 weeks in. I was like, no. But yeah, but you never know. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, no, it's scary. It's scary. Like when you work a job like that, anybody will tell you. And if you spend countless hours there, it's so hard to keep up with like your creative identity.
Absolutely.
It gets so exhausting.
I mean, that's part of the reason why, like, while I'm doing this podcast or whatnot, and I'm able to keep up with it with how I've given myself in more of a rhythm. Going back to your gym thing or whatnot, I found my schedule in a way or whatnot.
Yeah.
When it comes to any other like creative venture or whatnot, like it's hard for me to really like get started, even though I have so many ideas I really want to do. While on top of that, doing the podcast and then working my Monday to Friday, 10 to at least 6:30 p.m. warehouse job that I do on a weekly, daily basis at this point. So
yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, no, it's a struggle, man. But I mean, when you can find that balance, then you're like unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's why this podcast is still going to this day now.
Exactly. Yeah, you're an inspiration to us all.
I only wish. Okay, Mikey. Before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a desert island on your own accord. It's just you, alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, get to truly enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded on some desert island in the middle of the Bahamas. Like, it's a little B&B personal paradise for you.
Yep.
To make sure you don't go further insane on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
That is a very good question.
Thank you.
Wow. Because I have a lot of favorite movies and shows, but I feel like even in that context, like the irony would be what I rewatch the same stuff over and over again, and if I actually was forced to do that, then I'd get bored.
Exactly.
So that's a little tricky. So man, like, I guess maybe if we're talking about like a movie, gotta be like Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Or just anything campy, like anything like 80s campy, like Gremlins or like Ghostbusters or Back to the Future. Something that's like gonna keep my spirits up.
Okay. Like, what if we gave you one of those like DVDs that you see at like the gas station? It's like the 10-in-1 like campy 80s films or whatnot.
Okay, yeah, I could rock with that. But maybe a book of like a giant book of like ad libs to play with myself, or Mad Libs to play with myself, and then maybe that way I just doesn't keep it stale.
You know what? I'm feeling generous. I'm feeling generous today. I can give you both. How about that?
Right, there you go. Yeah. And then I have to use them to like start a fire, and then I have nothing.
I mean, as long as you can at least use the DVD to like direct the sunlight to get a more direct thing onto the Mad Libs to start the fire. Hopefully that's disgusting. I just want to go back to the movies real quickly. What is it about like those like campy 80s movie like Back to the Future that like that's the thing you cling on to? What is it about that like era of movies that you just love and cherish?
Well, I don't, and the issue with that is like I like cynical humor more than the next guy. I just had a project that came out that I wrote on where the guy gets incinerated.
Right.
Like, so I like that sort of stuff. But the thing is, I think a lot of movies nowadays are almost afraid to be a little cheesy, because like without like winking at the camera, like, yeah, we know this is like, we know this is like corny,
right.
And then it just comes off like even like more boring because it doesn't feel like authentic. It doesn't feel genuine. You know what I mean? Like those movies don't have that. Like they are like campiness is in their DNA. So, like they're just like, like simple, free-spirited movies. And it's like, okay, there might be a couple plot holes or, it might be a little dumb, but it's like, whatever. Like, like we don't need to address that to the audience. Let's just roll with it. I think it's more commendable if you don't, if you go with those concepts,
At the end of the day, it's like those kind of movies, you're there to have a good time. You're not supposed to think too much on it. Now, people have taken like movies in Back to the Future and thought very critically about all the implications that it had or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's just supposed to be a movie that you sit down, you enjoy, you have a fun time, and you just you laugh with the punches.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that it makes it inept from like criticism or anything.
Right.
But I just I do think like movies are almost a little afraid to have fun, because they're worried that they're gonna get like made fun of or something by like audience, which they are either way, So I feel like when it comes to me, when it comes to like writing stuff or whatever, I think the most important thing is like sticking to an identity. I mean,
Right.
if you're gonna make a certain type of thing, whatever the genre is, um, you're gonna roll with the punches, you know. Um, and that's me and the team at Mutant Minds, who is this wonderful team. We just released a short with for Terrestrially, an animated short called Terrestrially Challenged,
Yep.
and that's done by the amazing, incredible visual storyteller that is Patrick Kenshire. He's amazing. And I am honestly so privileged to work alongside him, just to put some like words on the page for him.
Mm.
And that entire team is incredible. But we wrote 3 shorts together.
Okay.
And the thing with like Patrick is that, and most people, is that I think progressively each one got better because we got more confident with ourselves. We started writing for ourselves, which is something you have to do, you know, like,
Oh yeah.
if your main objective when you make something, if your main objective is for everybody to like it or to at least like reach the lowest common denominator, like don't stoop to that level, because right now in this kind of landscape, you want to stand out.
Yes.
You should write what you know. You should roll with your niches. Like, you know, and then you'll gain a cult following who has the similar senses of humor, and they'll respect you more for like sticking to your guns. That's identity is the most important thing for me, like when it comes to creating any form of art.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It should feel like that it came from you, and you shouldn't be ashamed of how it is. You know, and I get it. It's so easy to be self-conscious. But look, you can't guarantee if anybody is really going to like something. But what you can guarantee is a fun project with your friends. And, you know, if you really like put the effort into it, there could be a level of quality, like production value there. But like, I think when I work with a lot of people, especially indie creators who are like so starved for that kind of like recognition, and I get it, you know, like that's what fuels at least like 75% of the drive.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't control that. You know what I mean? Like, there's been plenty of times where I've worked on something and I thought that it was going to be the thing that blows up. The thing that took me months to years to do doesn't blow up, but the thing that takes me like a minute
Yep.
suddenly blows up on Twitter. You know, you can't control getting that kind of attention.
You can't go out there and control the audience that you have, because like if you try to cater to like your entire audience, to everyone or whatnot, you get, you know, situations like what the House of Mouse has been known for as of late with like, you know, Wish and all that stuff. But like if you like camp it up, if you stay true to your identity, the people will recognize that, they will love that, and they will follow suit for it. Look at the, like you were talking about the indie animation space. Look at stuff like The Amazing Digital Circus. Like, you can't tell me that was made for an audience other than Gooseworks, but yet everyone loved it.
Yeah, and I'm on your podcast. Obviously, you talk to people like that all the time. You know, like trust me, like with the internet, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of videos posted a second. Yep. And like don't focus on what everybody else is doing or like how you're really going to blow up. Just make what you like, and just make it with the people that you love working with. Like, I'm very fortunate right now. I've had, for the last 3 years, I've been building up my reputation in the indie scene, and I have gotten to work with some incredible artists, voice actors, who honestly at this point are more influential to me than anybody really in the industry, because I have such an appetite for underground talent, and I like rough stuff too. Yes. And in terms of production value, I don't like everything like clean and crisp, you know. And if you like put all your eggs in one basket, that's kind of how you screw yourself over too. And that makes the blow of something not blowing up even worse, because it's like you spent so much time on this, and this is the only thing you have to show at this point, and it's like, oh crap, and only like 25 people showed up, you know. So I think when making stuff, the most two important things is stick with your gut, stay true to yourself, and then if something's not perfect, it's okay.
Yep.
And like a lot of the projects I've worked on, I've just swallowed that pill of like, you can't always be crazy ambitious with what you want to do. Some projects, like, it's kind of insane what they pull off, because a lot of indie projects are volunteer, so a lot of it's done with just the passion for the project and like out of the love of your heart. So when I see a project, and usually I've kind of set these kind of standards in my head, like, okay, if something's over like 10 minutes, it's never going to get made, because in 3 years, without a budget, because in the 3 years that I've majority of that time was spent just shelving projects or seeing stuff that I work on get canned. It's a part of the process. This is like really last year was only like, and this year has only been a time where I could say like I'm actually working on stuff that's coming out.
Yep.
Which I couldn't be happier about, obviously. Finally, because I don't look like a dummy talking about all this cool stuff. And here's another tip, by the way: never buy merchandise for projects that are before they release, because trust me, you sit around in a room full of posters, and everyone's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, That was something that existed at one point, not anymore. So
here I am sitting at my place with at least 2 projects on my wall that haven't been released yet, but they're currently being worked on.
Yeah,
go on.
I hope for the best. So now I kind of wait to buy merchandise for projects once it gets done. Then I'll buy the T-shirt. But
so. In a long roundabout way, going back to what we were originally talking about, so the DVD of campy 80s films and Mad Libs, that's your answer. You're locking that in.
Yeah, that's it.
Then if that's the case, along with that wonderful discussion that we had beforehand, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You would look fantastic in the merch that we have on the merch shop on fourthwall.com. Check the link in the description below to see that fantastic stuff today. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is a writer, voice actor, editor, and cartoon enthusiast, having a hand in so many projects while also leading the charge for his own series, FUNEMPLOYED. Welcome to the podcast, Mikey McGold.
Wow, that was an excellent plug. That would have at least taken me about 25 times to do.
I've gotten into kind of that headspace of like, once I get going, starting with that little intro stuff like that, it's just
incredible work, man. Really.
I mean, to be
How
fair,
do you not do that and not just faint out of your chair? Like,
it's one of those taking a good quick breath beforehand or whatnot. I mean, obviously I have it written down here or whatnot, but it's like, I guess I mentally practice it, and like, even if I mess it up, it's funnier if I just leave the mess up in, at least for me, because I'm sure, because you've seen this podcast before, I'm very like low effort, low energy when it comes to like the editing process of this thing. Yeah. So it's like any of the screw-ups is just a natural part of the human experience, and I want to leave that in.
Human error. It shows that this was actually made by a human.
And speaking of things made by humans, though we're communicating through machines. Hi. Mikey, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me on. It's about time. No, I'm kidding.
Honestly, it has been about time. It has been about time.
I only had to ask you. No, I'm kidding. Nathan is a great guy. Buy his merch.
Please do.
Yeah. I'm doing good though, man. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic now that I'm finally getting the opportunity to do this. Again, you're someone that I have definitely kept my eye on throughout the past couple of years. And we've had, off messages here and there or whatnot. And it's really good to see you getting more opportunities these days to do some incredible stuff, whether it's the stuff you have a hand in or the stuff you're developing for yourself, which we definitely will divulge into. But before we discuss all that stuff and then some, I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Mikey. What got you interested in art and animation in the first place?
I've always just cartoons are in my DNA. Okay. Cartoons are in my DNA. I've been obsessed with movies, film, animation. I do a lot of live action stuff too. I've actually gone to college and studied more live action stuff because the ironic thing is when it comes to the animation process is while I have a lot of respect for it, I myself hate drawing. Like I do draw casually in my spare time, but it's weird, but it's also my luck that I would like find success and a faster progression rate of progress from stuff like voiceover and editing writing than the actual core component that it takes to make a cartoon.
I was going to say, Mikey, keep in mind, you're talking to someone who has gotten their niche internet micro-celebrity status by interviewing other artists while also taking the opportunity to support them, fund them whenever I can, write them if I can, voice act if I can, but never the animation aspect. So if there's anyone that can relate to your situation, it's yours truly.
We are in the same boat. That's why I usually collaborate with people who love to draw and hate to write, because then that's where I'm in. Sometimes I do have to deal with that subgenre of the animation community where, they act like having a script beforehand is like the Black Plague of animation. But, it's a crazy argument. But a lot of the time, I think the crazy thing is that there's been plenty of visually stellar shows that do begin with the script. Right. And you can pay attention to the artistic quality of the project too. That's why you bring on animation directors and stuff. And, there's some people out there who have this like really conservative thought in their head. I like to call them cartoon conservatives, where like the way it started has to be the way that it has to happen, or that makes you less of an artist. But the thing is, artists are a lot of the artists that I work with and are visual storytellers, but not necessarily always narrative, and that's okay. Yeah. Like how I can handle like writing a script and everything like that, and characterization and a story arc and whatever. But like I said, I hate the process of drawing. I only like to doodle in my spare time, and that's where I formed like amazing relationships with people like Patrick Kenchar, who did X Marks the Aardvark, and now which just released Terrestrially Challenged, which I got to write that one, and I also voiced Dick the Clerk Johnson, which that role has all my heart, and that is my favorite thing I've ever gotten to work on. But Patrick has said it himself to me, where it's just like I can't write for shit, and that's where I step in, because I have to like pick your brain, and as long as like the crazy thing is that that's the collaboration aspect, So I mean, I don't think there's any correct process. I don't think script driven is better than board driven, and vice versa, because there's been plenty of script driven shows that suck, which I admit, but there's also plenty of board driven animated shows that aren't that great either. It's the people behind it, and the best version of it, the correct version, that time didn't need quotations, but the actual correct version is whatever makes the artist comfortable.
Exactly. So how did you become comfortable with the artist, or at the very least the arts? Like, what were some of the early animations like back in the day, like when you first, because you said like you basically grew up around animation, so like how is that so?
Well, the thing is that I drew for the longest time, and I just if I treated and it's still like this to this day, if I treated it like a hobby, it wouldn't work out well for me. And if I treat it like my career, everything I would have would go in the trash. Mm-hmm. The way that writing fell into my lap, I wish drawing fell into my lap, because since the beginning, my dream job will always be making animation. I get to work in animation, but I don't get to make animation. Right. That's what the amazing people around me do. But with that being said, the way I found out about writing was through like I just took a creative writing class in like middle school, and I wrote these stories, and a lot of them being like comedy based because that's my genre of choice. And the results were kind of nice, and I was seeing more positive reception from not only like my peers but myself from there. So I just kept doing it for fun, and then when I realized that I could maybe do it as a potential career, I was at that point where I knew I wasn't like I'm like great. I still don't think I'm that great. But I've seen enough progress from like my writing side than I ever did my art side that I stuck with it.
Okay.
And then voice acting was something that I was always fascinated with, and to this day I still am. But what ended up happening was I just never thought I really had like the chops for it because I was so caught up in the voice part of the acting, which is important, but the acting part is important too. And it wasn't until I started working on these indie projects among underground indie talent where they would kind of push me towards trying it out.
Yeah.
And it's been nice, and I have no regrets about doing it, especially with the characters that I get to do. But voiceover kind of fell into my lap and was just one of those situations where it's just like I was talking about before, I am constantly inspired by the people I get to be around. And if it wasn't for those people, I wouldn't have started doing voiceover. And then editing, I just picked up too because I was like, okay, look, if you're not going to be able to lock into drawing anytime soon, or you're not going to be able to take drawing as seriously as you need to be, then you want to be as self-sufficient as possible. Like I thought maybe if I could do every other aspect aside from the drawing, maybe they'll keep me around. And thankfully it's worked. It worked.
So far so good. So far so good.
So far so good. So far so good. Right now, I mean, it's been a couple months since I've moved out of the underpass or the overpass, and I couldn't be happier. No, I'm kidding. But you know, but yeah. So I mean, that's just kind of been. It's been more of a quest of just trying to learn as many other skills so that people will just keep me around because. If I could keep being around and I get to keep making people laugh and get to keep working with amazing, inspiring people, then I'll be happy. I mean, this is just always what I wanted to do. And I'm sure you feel the same way where it's just like, you know, you want to shut up and take the business degree, but you don't know the value of $1. You
exactly.
Know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't know the value of $1. So you take those risks, you know, because we were talking about it before where it's just like my creative identity takes up at least 85% of who I am. Like I'm like a workaholic by trade.
Yeah.
Like I yearn and cherish any time I get to do this sort of thing. And I want to keep doing it as long as I can because I don't think a plan B is worth doing if you're not interested in it. If you're just doing it for the means of survival, then it's like you're gonna hate life.
Yeah, no,
you know.
I trust me. We were kind of talking about that with like obviously having to work the IRL job before we could do the creative job more than anything else. It's absolutely brutal and stuff like that, but especially like the way you've been able to assert yourself in this creative field, especially the way you were talking about just being like, let me see if I can do everything but the actual animation and maybe they'll keep me around, which I think is a hilarious mentality, but sadly one I relate to. But
it's working. It's working.
Yeah, so far so good. So far so good.
This podcast releases and they're like, well, you know what? He's not that much of an asset as we thought. and then Trapdoor falls under me and I'm like, you know,
I'm genuinely curious because obviously like it's not like this love of cartoons came from like out of nowhere. It leads me to like genuinely wonder what were some of the cartoons that you grew up or at least that you've come to love that kind of more or less inspires you in your art field, whether it be the writing aspect or the voice acting aspect or the editing aspect. Like what are some of those shows that really like sparked that love and interest in the first place?
I've seen several. I try to keep up with as many as I can just to see what everybody else is doing. But big ones for me, I love Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Yep.
I'm actually right now one of the artists I've befriended, and they are incredible. I am working on a short film called Dull Point with them,
Right.
and our relationship began with just our deep love for that show, and his art style is just like very heavily inspired by that. So it's cool to be working on a project that takes inspiration from those elements of the show, because 25 years later, I still feel like, at least on cable, no show has looked like that, and no show has acted like that.
Right.
You know, it's like very fresh after all these years. I mean, like simple concept in nature, but like crazy execution. And then when you talk about it, none of it sounds like it would work,
Right.
you know, in terms of like, like using sound effects that don't match, or like a crazy like jazzy like soundtrack and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what I mean. But it's great. I love that. I am a massive fan of the early Adult Swim lineup, because we talked about before my love for crap. I love Space Ghost Coast to Coast,
Classic.
which is another show that I feel like has not been replicated on cable. I love Home Movies, Simpsons, Regular Show, Adventure Time. Like the list goes on. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite, because I could gush about them all.
Right.
But if you want to talk about the one show that kind of kicked off just this like do or die mentality, it's not even a show, it's a movie, and it's not even animated. It's I've mentioned it before, but Kevin Smith's Clerks, which is this movie that I find the story so inspiring. It's just this guy grew up in New Jersey, which I'm right by. We actually I've gone to a couple events and I've met him personally, and we're kind of on a name to name basis, which I still geek out. But his movie, it's this movie being about a day in a life, was made on like 27,000, which now like in the modern day wouldn't have even been made on that. It's in black and white. It's shoddy. Like the acting is a little amateur. But I love this story that this guy just felt like just dropped out of college, took out his money, went into credit card debt, sold his comics, and just made something that he just wanted to make. Yeah. And I try to follow that mentality. So that's kind of what started this whole like venture, at least of trying to kickstart my own projects. Like right now, one of them is through Indiegogo, but the other two is out of pocket. I'm trying to fund it as much as I can. Because the thing is, it's like, and that's another, I guess, like kind of like hot take I see in the indie animation scene, where I, of course, as much as the next guy, I want to see like my friends and myself compensated like fairly. But for the people who say like talking about guys who work a crappy retail job like me, like don't start up those projects until you like have that kind of industry money. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's $300,000. No one's gonna have that, and I'd be a little stupid to spend it on a cartoon or a project. But so I do the best that I can to. And I think the way to remedy that is to not set such a crazy high standard,
right? And
be okay with stuff looking rough around the edges. Like I try not to like really get hell-bent about like on model stuff or all that kind of stuff, like and all that kind of stuff, because it's like, like I'm only paying you so much and you're only paying me so much, I'm willing to settle, like sometimes for the greater good, you should settle. Just accept it. You know what I mean? Like that, not everything's going to be like kind of perfect. So, but that's why I think when I was talking about before, like I've accepted the reality that at least for now, I'm not going to be working on the crazy ambitious stuff, which I'm okay with, and like I'm doing the simple stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the very low scale, like 3 to 4 minutes at most, and that's what most people, honestly, I think a lot of artists would like benefit from that, where just someone said like, instead of like working years on one animated project, like make multiple small shorts or even animatics, so that way you just have like a whole catalog of stuff to show. So you know, like it's that kind of guilt where it's just like, of course, you know, it's something that you kind of have to be sympathetic to. Obviously, like here's my quota. Here's my quota. Here's what like a production for me has to meet.
Okay.
Like the pay at least has to be like, okay. Mm-hmm. There's a couple projects that I volunteered for. The projects that I volunteer for are the ones that I know it's going to be an exchange of favors. There's some production value in it, and most importantly, there's no assholes involved.
Yep.
You know, because you can work with a lot of snooty, egotistical. You know, you're more or less working with film students, and you know, it's like it's to say, you know, and there's a lot of people that are like you should be doing this and everything, and like you do this, and this, like you do what I say, and then you hand them the camera, and they're like, how do I take off the lens cap? Like,
oh, Jesus.
You know,
yeah.
You know, it's like you know, it's kind of go at your own pace, and you know, like I'm lucky to be. Everybody that works on my projects are my friends.
Yeah.
A lot of them volunteer to not be paid, and I'm like, shut up, you're gonna pay at least a little something, you know. But I still feel that, even that, all things considered, I wish, you know, like and I'm sure everybody does. It's just like you wish you could give a little more out of your pocket. But sometimes, and it's like I said, it's crazy to think about. But sometimes, like I said, as long as you're not being exploited, working on the volunteer projects are okay because they lead to the paid gigs.
Yeah, exactly.
I got my paid gig writing on D-Tunes from working on X Marks the Aardvark, which is a volunteer gig, you know? And, you know, you don't have to do that all the time, but just, you know, it's also not necessarily a bad option to just make fun stuff with your friends for now.
Yeah.
And then you could work these, you know, retail jobs and whatever on the side, unless like it's money is like your necessity and then you have to be doing this.
Yep.
Of course. You know, but at the very least, if you cannot compensate, at least exchange in favors. You got to be giving something a little back, which, like I said, I'm in that lucky position where a lot of the people I work with, they're able to do something that I can't do, and I'm able to do something that they can't do. So it works like clockwork.
I mean, especially with what you have been able to do with the different aspects of the animation process or whatnot. I mean, I already kind of reiterated earlier about being like an editor and writer and voice actor wherever you can, especially with some of the opportunities that you had, whether it's paid or volunteer. I mean, thinking about like even just some of the opportunities you've had right off the bat, you know, like let's start with writer for the first little bit or whatnot. Like the stuff you've been able to help either write with or write on your own has been absolutely outstanding. Like the most recent example is obviously the one that we've talked about here and there, terrestrially challenged, but I can only imagine like what the writing process for a gig like that, or just the writing process in general, must be for you.
Well, it's great working with a guy like Patrick.
Right.
It takes a while to earn, especially when you're somebody's writer and you collaborate. It takes a while to earn somebody's trust.
Mm-hmm.
So, Terrestrially Challenged, I think, came out as good as it did, and I love it so much because Patrick kind of gave me the wheel. You know, I've had writing sessions with people like Patrick before. He's not like this anymore, and it's okay that he was like this, where he was kind of self-conscious about taking those risks because he didn't know if people, like I said, he didn't know if people would get it or if people would find it funny. They came to me, Patrick and Peter, who does the backgrounds on Terrestrially Challenged, which saying that it's a visual masterpiece is a understatement. When those guys get together, they make fucking magic.
I was going to say, for those in the audience that have not watched it, I'm going to make sure to have it linked in the description below.
Yeah.
You better go watch it because it is something else.
So they came to me with the rough idea of like 2 aliens showing up in a gas station in the middle of nowhere. We decided later on that it would be Arizona.
Okay.
and they're in need of recharging their ship or refueling their ship, and they think it's gas, but then it's actually an energy drink, and they're worried because they have to skip the clerk. Like they cannot make human contact. And then the idea that I threw in is that Dick should die. Spoilers.
How dare you?
Spoilers. Because what happened was, and I think what makes it is because I was like, we should go full into this like schmaltzy ET, like making contact parody. And then at the end, this guy just doesn't step out of the way.
Yeah.
Because it deals with, it's the irony of these two aliens showing up, thinking that they're the ones that are going to be in danger when really they're the only ones who cause any harm.
Right.
And, like that was, they laughed at it at first, and you kind of have to fight for that sort of thing because they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Like, why should, like, but why? And it's like, well, the guy completed his arc.
Yeah.
The guy loves aliens. He's obsessed with that sort of stuff. So him getting to meet aliens and then assist them, he says it himself, that is his role in life. That is his sole purpose. So getting vaporized for him wasn't as terrible. And I think it's kind of crazy, but I think the moral of the story in a weird, deranged way is that, live the life that you want to live.
Follow your dreams.
Yeah, Dick follows his dreams, even though his dreams are very low scale. He just likes nachos. He wants to watch the director's cut of, or commentary cut of,
Jungle Joe.
Terrible, like, buddy comedy 2000s movies. And he wants to assist the unknown. He wants to explore the unknown, and he wants to like deal with these, like make contact with aliens and the superior species. So that's the thing with writing too, is that the worst thing you could hear when you're working with writers or working with co-writers or just working for anybody, the worst kind of criticism is the one that has no justification behind it. Mm-hmm. So there's been plenty of times where I've heard something like, I think the script is good, but it could use work. And I'm like, lay it on me, because you have to be used to that kind of criticism. And it's like, it'll be something like, I just think it could be better, or I just think it could be funnier.
Okay.
And I'll be like,
so?
Okay. And I'll be like, okay, what jokes work? No, all the jokes work. I just think it could be funnier. Like, that's nothing for me to go off of.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you need to kind of, that's the most important part when you're a part of a project and you're leading the story. When you take those kind of bold risks, like having a mid-30s guy getting killed off after we just met him and kind of made a connection with him in some way, you have to like give a genuine reason behind that. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that we went through with it, because I do think that's what makes the cartoon work. And it's also just funny seeing like people get horribly decimated in animation, not in real life.
Of course. In animation, YouTube, in animation.
Yeah, it's not as funny if someone like got burnt.
Anyways,
yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, especially with that, like, I could really tell with like the writing of it. Like, obviously, like you have obviously the short time that you're giving yourself or whatnot, but like the way that the jokes just kind of like go one after another or whatnot, and like obviously like the resolution, the way that it resolved itself in the end or whatnot, and the hilarious way of like, what they had feared is actually the thing that helps them, and then that whole entire thing, like, it's really borderline brilliant, I must say. Like the way you're able to pack so much, the way you're able to pack so much in such a short amount of time. Like, I imagine that someone that, you were talking about like loving the shows like Ed, Edd n Eddy, they were really known for really packing a lot of stuff in like an 11-minute time frame or whatnot. So like,
and as of late, not to cut you off, but as of late, I've been like, I love writing shorter stuff in the indie scene, because there's a higher chance that it gets made.
Yeah.
Like with Patrick's projects, I'm super lucky to be working with Patrick, and those were student films, so they had a deadline. They had to be made.
Yep.
Or else Patrick would like have to drop out, and obviously he wouldn't want that.
No, we do
no
not
matter
want
how
that.
much he says he's going to. I know the animation is a bitch, but he finished that all on his own. And because he had that, when you have that deadline, Yeah, it is a very lucky position. Like, okay, we get to make great stuff, and like it has to be made, or else one of us, or else the director is at risk. It's kind of crazy to say, but like it's kind of hard to discipline yourselves like that outside of a school setting. So we were very fortunate to make like stuff that we just wanted to make and we thought was fun. I'm talking on the not just me and Patrick, but on the behalf of everybody at Mutant Minds, because I love working with those guys. Those guys are awesome. Like I've never been more fortunate to like be a part of such a crew. I mean, you see the work.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
That. I mean, it's TV quality. You know, I mean, like I know I help the story move along and I come up with a couple funny bits, but I'm only a small person.
Yeah,
and a small crew, but everybody. I mean, everybody like. I think if one person was missing from that crew, like it would have like changed the course of that entire production.
Absolutely. I mean, regardless, like no matter how big or how small the crew is or whatnot, like everyone was important for that. Like especially like with what you were doing, like basically providing the bedrock for them to eventually build the house of the animation that eventually came to be. But obviously, I would say, but obviously, like like you said, the other people doing the actual animation, really bring it to reality or whatnot. Like, if nothing else, like I can only imagine how much fun it must have been to work on a project like that, to work with these like indie crews to create something like that.
I kind of like being a part of the pre-production process because it's a little more low maintenance. I mean, piss poor planning, like pre-production is crucial. Like, I mean, so there is like stress and stakes there of like making something that is of actual quality, but like after I write, at least on projects like Terrestrially Challenged, like after I write the script and kind of voice the characters, I just kind of sit there and for the ride, and then everybody else pulls their hair out, and then but I stay there for emotional support, so I kind of like being like getting to build the foundation, and I feel the same way about post-production. When I edit, I like putting the little nice wrapping it up in a little nice bow with sound design and stuff.
You're bringing in the furniture for the house once the base of it has been built.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, what is it? I mean, obviously, I know like the reason why the middle is not something that you're more involved in, but what is it specifically about those two processes in particular, the writing and the editing, to where you feel the most comfortable in?
I think it's literally just because there's like, it's like hard to say. It's just like because I just kind of know my role in the sense where I feel like I kind of thrive in the brainstorming department, and then also a project is constantly changing. Like Terrestrially Challenged, like nothing always like. It's very rare for a script to be written and be finalized on the stuff that we work on. There's always something that's going to change. There was one point where the Jungle Joe bit almost got revamped into being an alien, the same alien that we see at the end, Darlian. And like I was terrified about that because I was like, no, Patrick, you are throwing away like a really good joke. Like, how many references do you see to crap like Zookeeper and like Kangaroo Jack and whatever?
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, but I want it to like set. I think it would fit more with the sci-fi theme. But I'm like, well, then it's gonna take away from the like weird like reveal of Darlian at the end, and it's just like I don't feel like the joke lands as much as like Jungle Joe.
Yeah,
I mean, like Ben Stiller doesn't look nearly, or we call him Ben Filler because we like like Ben Filler.
I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely didn't know who that was. I was wondering like whose face did y'all Photoshop for that. Now that I know it's Ben Stiller, it's so much
Stiller. And Miles John's original version, he did the DVD menu. He had Cameron Diaz in as the love interest, and I'm like, we couldn't fit it. I guess Patrick couldn't fit it into the TV.
Okay.
Like the resolution was too low. And I'm like, damn, because that would have been really funny because Cameron Diaz is like always like the typical like love interest in all those kind of movies. Actresses like Cameron Diaz,
yep.
Like, but there was a point where that was just going to be like a typical alien, and it's like I was like that joke's not going to work nearly as well. And
Right.
thankfully, he came to his senses.
And Jungle Joe lived.
Yeah, Jungle Joe lived. Thank God. But we talk about Jungle Joe like a lot if we were actually to like make it as a movie, where it would be Ben Stiller, Cameron Diaz, and Jungle Joe himself is actually voiced by David Spade. Because he's got the sunglasses on, you know.
No, that makes a little too much sense.
Yeah, and the first act would be entirely different than anything else. Or the second act would be like a complete 180 from the first act, and the plot would be pretty aimless, and they would go, there'd be some kind of product placement, like Jungle Joe and Ben Stiller would stop maybe at like an Applebee's or like a Wingstop. Yeah. I went on a tangent. Where were we going?
Well,
with
I mean, you were talking about obviously like, you know, how the process usually changes, especially from like the pre-production to post-production or whatnot. I can imagine, especially for you, like being on both ends of that spectrum or whatnot when it comes to the production, it must be interesting for you to be able to see, to like help bring up the image and also like basically finalize the image.
And then when you see it come to life, like that's the other thing, and that's the most important thing. Like what keeps a passion project alive is consistency. And that progression. Obviously, you read a script or you look at storyboards, or in this case, in my case, we'll start with the script. You read a script for like 36 times. You're sick of the script. You hear the voices over and over again. You hate hearing the voices. You move on to the boards, and then each part of the production process adds a fresh coat of paint to what you once had. And I mean, maybe that's why I like the pre-production process so much, because I get to see it get like refurbished with each part of the process. It's like, holy shit, now it's voiced, now it's drawn, now, you know, like now it's animated, now it's edited, now it's scored, you know, now it's done. And then you can look back on it and hopefully be like, oh man, like it all worked out in the end.
I imagine also has to be that little bit sweeter when one of the voices that do get recorded is your own voice being lent into a thing.
Yes. Which Dick the Clerk Johnson had a very loose inspiration on me in the sense off me in the sense that that voice that I did is how my friends think I sound. They'll go a little bit of it. They'll go like they think I talk like this.
Okay.
Which I don't think I do, but anyway.
I don't think you do, but I can see how other people can think that you do.
Yeah. But and then so that's just and then I just throw in like a little like nasal into it, and it's like awesome. Sweet. Yeah, sweet. When you say the sweet, it helps a lot better if you go sweet. Like I think, you know, that's how you get your best sweet. That's how you get everyone's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, all right, you take both hands. Okay, it's very simple. You clench your fists, okay, and then you go sweet. Yeah, you know? Yeah, see, that was like a million times better than the first time you did it because you put your heart and soul into it. You know,
I put my gut into that more than anything.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know.
I was gonna say, like, especially with a role like Dick the Clerk Johnson more than anything else, like that must have been just like absolute fun to record. Like I can only imagine like some of the voices, especially like that, they get to like toy around with, whether it's like a Dick the Clerk Johnson or like whenever you voice like that fan comic of the Ed and Eddie one or whatnot. Like that, I thought that was a fun little thing. But like,
that was cool to do. The first real paid gig I got in voiceover was actually D-Tunes. I started off as a writer.
Okay.
Then they needed to save money, so I didn't write any scripts yet. And then they needed a new voice for Doggy. I'm the 6th voice actor for Doggy, so Doggy's voice actor has changed more than I changed socks. And the thing is that it's not a crazy voice. Like I think anybody could do Doggy because it's just your typical like, you know, like grumpy old man. Hey, Conroy, what you got? You know, anybody could do that. Yeah. But maintaining it, you know, like I go in and then I scream as Doggy and all that kind of stuff. That's the part where it's a little harder. And doing that role, because most of the time when I get casted, it's just my natural voice, which
Right.
I don't mind, but I like to toy and I like to experiment. And Dick the Clerk Johnson's not too far off from my regular voice. Like, it's literally, I just said it. I'm doing an impression of me, so I may as well, or I'm doing an impression of what people think I sound like.
So you're just going all in with it.
That's what I mean. So I guess in a way it's not super different, but sometimes it gets a little boring voicing in your natural voice, you know, but I'm just happy to do it. I have a nice relationship with voiceover where I understand how competitive it is, and I know like my life isn't depending on it. And, like a person like me is going to land like maybe, or is going to get rejected about like 85% of the time, probably 90. And then the people that have the large followings and those guys, they still get rejected like 65% of the time. So it's just, you know what I mean? Like even the big voice actors don't always get, they get casted a little more, but they still
it's still competitive. It's still a competitive world out there at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's why you have to find, you kind of have to find other reasons to do voiceover. For me, I find it very therapeutic.
Okay.
A lot of the time I'm voicing loud characters, and I hardly try to raise my voice in arguments. So when I get to do that in the booth, it's like, oh, I can be loud and I don't feel like a jerk for it. I'm being paid for it. Yeah. So
like that right there, that right there is like the dream more than anything else. Because like obviously, like I said before, I'm trying to get more into voice acting as well, and I get the opportunity to experiment with voices here and there. The most recent example that I've gotten to have is I'm helping a buddy of mine start their own indie animated project called How I Joined the Mafia, and I was able to lend my voice to the main antagonist, which was a rat named Richard Radnick, and the thing is like, the person had a very specific voice in mind, or kind of a very specific voice or whatnot. If you've have you ever heard the artist Will Wood, like the musician Will Wood?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
There's one song, I can't remember what it is in general, but it was off of I forget exactly what it was, but it was like a very deep, like gravelly, like somewhat gravelly voice from one of the songs that Will Wood did. And so like I tried toying around with that a little bit, but I went like a little bit more gravelly or whatnot, certain parts or whatnot, and the person's like, yes, that's exactly it. So anytime you hear good old Richard Radnick, you got me right here. Indeed, absolutely.
That's phenomenal, man.
What's funny? What's funny about this voice that I just did is actually me impersonating one of the people that I work with.
There you go. But that's your best voice. You know what I mean? Like you hear that advice all the time, but it's like a bad impression is just another voice to use.
Exactly.
Like I'm not an impressionist, and everybody always confuses voiceover for impressions, and I could really realistically I could only do like really like 4 good impressions, which is like Shaggy, Scooby, Eddie, and Owen, like that, what I mean? Like I'm not like my friend Marcello. He is a voice actor and an impressionist. His vocal range was gifted from the gods. He could make his voice everywhere. For me, I usually go into like higher nasally registers, or I go into like low gravelly stuff. But going back to like the detunes thing, that was also like such a learning experience for voiceover, because when you record for like low scale, just fun projects like Terrestrially Challenged, like you go in and you don't have to worry about like a slate, or really like like you have like a Discord server to hold all that kind of stuff, but it's like you have like opportunities to like improvise and stuff. And you could do like as many takes as you want or whatever. With detunes, who they're an awesome production team, by the way. I feel so it feels so weird, really surreal, voicing a character that I knew of since I was like 11. Oh, wow. So now it's kind of weird that I'm like voicing that character. But the thing with detunes is they are a indie production studio with a very tight budget. Yep. And then when I record for Doggy, I have to like I have to title the file a certain way. Like, I have to record no more than 7 takes.
Oh, wow.
And I can't, it's usually like advised not to improvise, which is fine, you know? And like, I'm going to tell this story, and like, I just want to preface it with, I am no way like knocking the production team or whatever, because I'm so lucky to be working with them, and like, you know, like I totally get it. But the big thing is that, you know, their scripts have to be, when they're final, you know, because you're paid per word. So there was one cartoon that I recorded where I just said, the line was, why do cats always, or the line was, why do cats do this? And then I said, why do cats always do this? And they were like, that always in there, like, I don't know, like, you gotta take that, and I was like, that's right, I have to read it as is. So like, just one word like that could like totally screw the production over financially.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what kind of happens when you're working on these shoestring like projects, so budget projects. So that's why I try to have a little more sympathy about it. You know what I mean? I could have been like, oh, come on, is it like really that much more? But it's like, no, I told them, I was like, listen, like, if you like that take better, you could use it, and you don't have to give me the additional change. It's fine. It's literally one word. Or I gladly will re-record it as is, you know? Because I just feel privileged to begin with, for them to like, anybody to throw like pocket change at me even. I'm like, like $10 buys a lot of like beef jerky, man. Not actually, not a lot. I guess one pack of beef jerky. But I think you'd get a little more out of like teriyaki flavored beef jerky than like me. So, but like,
Stop selling yourself short. Stop selling yourself short right now.
I'm just honored. But like I said, I'm just honored to like be there, to be doing it to begin with. But that's the kind of stuff that so that you need to know. Like, so D-Tunes, I really learned a lot, and I've been learning a lot from working on D-Tunes, and it's just been like a great experience and has helped me with like how I approach auditions further. Yeah. So, like one role a year, whatever, man, I'm happy with it. If I could get that, you know what I mean? Maybe one, I don't know, like, but I feel like incredibly lucky to only have been taking voiceover seriously for really like a year and a half, and have one recurring paid role and roles in like amazing projects like Terrestrially Challenged. Like, I would love if Terrestrially Challenged somehow like gets off its feet and like really gets recognition. I will go to conventions dressed up as Dick the Clerk Johnson. I will go. I will live out those fantasies for everybody, and I'll go like, awesome.
So, are you gonna get the?
I'll do that.
Are you gonna get the full tattoo and everything?
I'm gonna get. Well, I don't know about that. Listen. If the cartoon breaks 2 million, I will get the tattoo. That's
on you, folks. That's on you, folks.
I'll get maybe 1 million, but maybe, I don't know. Now that I said it, now that I said it,
2 million. Mine will stick to 2 million.
My mind is stick with 2 million. It's a very, I mean, like, it's a great tattoo for Dick. Maybe not a great tattoo for me.
Oh goodness! Like, talking about all this experience you've had with like the indie animation stuff, it leads me to a question I wanted to ask a little earlier. How did you even become aware of the indie animation scene in the first place? Like, how did you get like involved with it?
I just inquired.
Okay.
I just got on like my soapbox, and I tried to Saul Goodman myself up as best as possible, and then Patrick was the first guy I talked to that like took a chance on me. And then I learned quickly that like that doesn't mean everyone's gonna take a chance on me. There's been plenty of times where like I DM people and they're like,
it's like, we appreciate you, buddy, but
yeah, maybe, so at the time I thought, because I landed it so easily, I was like, dude, I could do anything, like, what I mean? But I've just been following a lot of indie projects for the longest time. Yeah. Stuff like and I really like the underground stuff. Like I love the stuff of one of my I love Subalo and Tangy Mustard, and I love there's another show that actually a good friend of mine now is, which is cool when you like it's amazing when you like somebody's project and like talk to them and it's like, oh yeah, we're like friends now. And sometimes they ask you to work on stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's like I get the voice in that thing that I'm a fan of. So I love Failing Upward by Gary Tremarky.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean I have like such scatterbrain right now. But Big Top Burger, I mean there's several like amazing projects out there, like really, like, which is why I like, like I tried starting to do that podcast where it's just like I just wanted to talk to these people like you did,
right?
So I guess for long story short, I just put myself out there and somebody took a chance on me, and that led to other people taking chances on me. And to this day, people still take chances on me, and I'm just forever grateful to just be a part of any of it. And like I said, I've just been constantly inspired to the point where it's like I want to like Kevin Smith this shit.
Right.
Like I want to make my projects. I'm actually one of the projects, the one I mentioned that has a similar art style to Eddie, that me and Jeremy are doing is a love letter, a brutally honest one, but a love letter to the indie animation scene.
Yeah,
it's a cartoon about people trying to make a cartoon.
Yeah, I was gonna say for those who wonder what we're talking about, that's the Dole Point, right?
That's Dole Point. Yes, that's Dole Point.
Which I remember seeing the little teases for that on one of the indie animation days or whatnot, and I could I was in immediately. Like seeing that art style looks absolutely stunning, but also like getting the chance to see the different characters and like the interactions just from the little bit. Like I can only imagine like where'd the inspiration for that come from with you and Jeremy?
Well, first off, all art direction, all credit goes to Jeremy Pena. Mm-hmm. I mean, because like I said, he's just a phenomenal artist and also just one of the funniest guys I know. I mean, we hit it off real fast. Actually, I'm not going to say that. It's kind of like we had things in common, but I don't think like in the beginning, I don't know, like I would have never thought that it would like led to us being like creative partners and working on projects together. And the thing is, actually, when I wrote that script, I was kind of scared to write with Jeremy because we had so many different ideas for what we kind of found funny at the time, and almost kind of different ideas where like in the early stages, Jeremy wanted it to be like extremely cartoony, and I was like, oh, but I feel like I don't know if the point's going to get across if we're not just a little bit grounded. But I realized it was one of those things where it's just like, hey, you're great at that and not so great at not well no he's great at both, but like I'm a little better at that and vice versa, in the sense of like he kills it with visual humor. I could come up with a couple good visual gags, but like Jeremy's like he comes up with some great stuff. Mm-hmm. And I can like pull out some decent dialogue a little quicker than he can, and that's what like I think made the project so fun, because it was just like this culmination of like best of both worlds, so it's just like so that literally started though with Jeremy had like sent me a DM with a very rough sketch of these characters, or a rough drawing of these characters. If you saw them now, it looked like now they're in their 20s. It looks like if you saw that, if we start with those designs, it would be like mid 30s. Which, at that point, if you're like 35 and you still can't like put something out, maybe it's time to reconsider career choices. But he gave me these drawings and I like was obsessed with them. Like I fell in love with them. And then he told me, he was like, I want to make, he was like, I kind of want to make something with these guys. Like they're a bunch of artists who hang out and whatever. And I was like fully locked in, because this is the kind of stuff that I love. Right. I love movies and shows and everything about 20-somethings. And in the animation scene, it's kind of not as represented as much as I'd like it to be, which is why I latch on to projects like Subalo and Tangy Mustard and Failing Upward, because it talks about the kind of like 20s experience that you and I are going through now, Mm-hmm. and I was like super excited about it, and I was like, oh, dude, like we should we should work on this together. And it's like all you need now is just kind of like a self-deprecating, because it's about the starving artist. You kind of need like a good kind of self-deprecating like title, like Dead End or Dull Point. So like, you know, we just like came up with it in that moment, wrote the script, and we've been working on it now. It's a very small crew, as in the sense that aside from the voice actors and the composer that we compensated, it's really only me and Jeremy working on it.
Okay.
So Jeremy's really handling the only one as of now. A couple animators are coming on soon that's really handling the animation process. And that's why, like, at least every indie animation day, we're trying to get at least like one shot to show.
Yep.
We did try to like search for grants and all that kind of stuff, but applying for film grants in the States is a lot harder because
Yes,
I mean, there's a huge emphasis on which is fine, but there's usually a huge emphasis when you try to pitch these guys that they're looking for something educational, and like usually that money is going to go to like a documentary than it would a cartoon.
Right.
You're like Dull Point is just about like underground talent for underground talent. Like I think not a lot of people, when it releases, I don't think a lot of people are going to get it unless you are a creative type. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. You know, that's kind of what we're going for. It's one of those projects where it's like, and the reason why I love it so much and why I love working on it with Jeremy is that we've gone into this from the beginning not thinking about like what everybody else would like or what everybody else would find entertaining and just for us. It's literally just, it's an 8-minute 2D animated like vent and love letter to my experience in the indie animation scene, you know? And it's like, I was like, if we can make some people identify with it, that's great. And even then, like I was talking about it with Jeremy, I was like, there's one way I want people to react to this cartoon, and then there's like another way I want people that I know to react to this cartoon. If people react to like, oh, hey, that's me, that'd be great. And then if some people like, wait a second, that's me, that asshole, then maybe it won't be as great. Because we took like 90% of that script is just us taking from our experiences working on indie projects. Mm-hmm. So it's very I guess self-indulgent in a way without being like, hey, it's like I said, it's like it's almost like a biopic, but it's not. You know what I mean? Yep. But it comes from like true experiences, which, you know, it's not new advice, but I like to write what I know. I like, you know, it's good to step out of your comfort zone every now and then, but and you should, but I feel like the best kind of experiences and stories you're going to tell are the ones that you experienced firsthand. So I'm very excited about Dull Point. I don't know when it will come out. Right. But I'm very, very much willing to wait for it. We were discussing the idea of like potentially doing a crowdfund, but it's like I want to slow my roll.
Right.
But I'm already doing one crowdfund. Mm-hmm. I don't, you know what I mean? It's just like we can wait for Dull Point.
We can.
FUNEMPLOYED, I'm a little more antsy to get out. Yep. Because I just finished college, and the story behind that is, not to like do a crazy transition, is that now that I'm kind of done with my associates, I just got my associates, I want to give myself a year to just lock into all the creative opportunities I have, all the projects that I have, and then like make something with my friend. The co-creator of FUNEMPLOYED is Marcello Lodato, who actually appears in Terrestrially Challenged. He's the Gallblaster photo model. He's the guy on the poster. He's the guy on the poster. I have been friends with that guy for, no joke, 16 years. Wow. So we've been together since the beginning. And we've just experienced just about everything for each other. And similar to me, he has that love for animation. And unlike me, he actually like
can animate.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he actually became a better artist. And I was like, but then that worked out because, like I said, that's the relationship where it's like, you know, can animate and draw like a fucking beast, but isn't like the best with writing. That's when I come in. You know what I mean? So it's like that's I like I said, we talked about it before, and I'm like a broken record, but it's like it's so nice to kind of be in a position where it's like I can still contribute and help people,
Right.
and work with people. I'm just kind of I like being sometimes being a team player is better than being the leader. I like to lead and I like to direct and all that kind of stuff, but it's also fun to just kind of sit on the sidelines and just work with a good crew, especially when your leader is extremely inspiring. But with FUNEMPLOYED, that's the project that me and Marcello came up with, in the sense that we've always been telling each other for years we were going to make something together, and now that I feel like we're 16 years in, we should probably like actually do it.
It would help after promising for so long to do it, right?
Yeah. So, and we have a lot of similar common interests, obviously, for being friends this long, and we have like kind of a lot of stories to tell. And it's one of those things where it's just like, not to sound egotistical, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I have so many stories about the dynamic that we have that people laugh, and like he was like, you should do something with that, and I want to take that kind of chemistry there. So that's what kind of FUNEMPLOYED is. Where FUNEMPLOYED isn't a story about us. The characters do look a little similar for the sake of I want it to be mixed media. Mm-hmm. The characters do look a little similar, and they're just very dramatized versions of our personality for the sake of comedy. And I want to take some of those experiences and stories we had, and put it in a pilot. So, but I was thinking about like what would be a good format to kind of allow for that. So, at the time, I was trying to think about like what things we had in common, and obviously, I didn't want to do like another show about creatives because I'm doing a pilot already about creative people. Right. So at the time, all I could think of is how me and Marcello were out of a job. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how funny it would be if we wrote characters, or if I wrote like very dramatized versions of us, and did a kind of episodic story of the week where these two guys pick up odd jobs and something always ridiculous kind of happens. And he was immediately game. He's not hard to convince. He's always down for whatever. It takes a little while for him to get going, but I mean, like, he's somebody that you should totally have on this podcast at some point too. Because
I'm definitely he's
like I said, if I talk about him, I'm just not going to do him justice. But like, you just kind of have to see that kind of unique, insane personality here in the seat, talking to you. But so that's kind of another thing where like just a fun project the two of us can do. But I really want to take that project. I really want to get it done this year.
Right.
That's the project that I want to lock. Not this year, or like within next year, but in like due time. Because now that I'm taking a break for my associates, and I'm very conflicted about going for my bachelor's because college is expensive, I'm kind of comfortable with the idea of only being a couple, because I started a community, so I'm kind of comfortable with being in the position where I'm like, I've only racked up a couple thousand in debt, and I could pay that at the end of my life. But if I go like continue doing film at like college, it's like see, I talk about this all the time, but that is like, that's the most terrifying and relieving thing about like wanting to become a part of the creative field, is that there is no like textbook way, step-by-step way to do it. There's plenty of people who put in maximum effort and do all the things right, so they say, and don't end up doing anything, which sucks. And then there's some people who like just barely lift a finger and they're there. So you don't know how it's going to work out for you. All you can do is just give your damnedest.
Yeah.
But with FUNEMPLOYED, I'd like to have that finished by next year if we hit our goal, which we're doing in Indiegogo. we're like over the halfway mark, and I think I should really know this better, but I think there's like 30 days, 31 to 30 days left.
At the time this episode releases, though, I believe it's the upcoming Monday, so it's like less than a week for you guys when this episode does release. So.
Right. So hopefully by this time, this is like something that's not going to be poorly aged. And I was like, oh yeah, I was the Indiegogo only like.
Hopefully at this time the goal of 3,000 has been met. But if not, hopefully we're right there, and any little bit helps.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we're like at 56% at the time as this is being recorded, and we still have a good chunk of days left, has me optimistic. And once that gets finished, I really want to take it on a film festival circuit tour, or film festival circuit on or just a film festival tour with Marcello.
There you go.
And then just kind of build up experiences and just, I don't know, because I feel like right now, it's like I was in no rush to really get my degree, and as well adjusted as I may seem, it's not like I really have it all together. And most people don't at their 20s. That's the point of the 20s. But I think now would be a good time for me to do something like this. Like, I have my associates, and if need be, if like the project doesn't go south, or if the project goes south and we don't reach the goal, or it just doesn't happen, or whatever, it's like, or I'm not happy with the results that have been yielded by the creative opportunities that I currently have, then I could go for my bachelor's. Right now, it seems just like a very low stakes situation as of right now, but
knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. But I feel like this is the time where I should be trying to take that risk and seeing if it like works out for me,
Absolutely.
Because it's not like I don't have anything to lose. It's not like I'm like how Kevin Smith was, where he dropped out of college to make his film.
Right.
I'm not doing that. I've completed half the process. So in a year, I'm okay with waiting a year to complete the other half, if it means I get to make something that I love with my friends and take it around.
Absolutely. Hearing you talk about FUNEMPLOYED was exactly like, it's the project that I can only dream of having with like some of my friends. So, like, the fact that you're going out there doing it, like taking the time to like take that risk on yourself and really do something like that, like I can't help but like commend it at the end of the day. That's why I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of this podcast, so you can promote the Indiegogo for the people at home, which, again, if you guys have not already, by the time this episode releases, with like less than a week away, help fund it, or if it's already funded, fuck it, give some more money. All right, we can, that could go to future episodes, maybe adding a little extra. Who knows?
Right now, I'm just dead set on working on one. That's another like important piece of advice if you guys are making projects. It's always good to think about the future, but like, don't get all caught up. Like, there's been plenty of times where it's like, what are we gonna do for episode 2? And I'm like, dude, episode 1 isn't even animated yet.
Yeah,
let's do that. Because the worst thing that could happen is you make episode 2 and then you fall in love with episode 2, and then it's like, oh, I gotta work on episode 1. This sucks.
That's something that I am kind of dealing with a little bit with Tipsy, helping her out with the Evil Little thing, because one of those, like, we're in the middle of animating episode 1, and she already wants to go ahead and get the script going for episode 2, which I don't blame her, and like, she's already talking about like things that she wants to do for episode 2, but I'm like, let's focus on getting episode 1 done and then go forth, and like, we have an outline, a basic idea on how we want episode 2 to go, but let's focus on getting episode 1 done before we jump on that boat.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's always exciting to think about the future.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, also, Nathan, like, what is stopping you from making those things with your friends? Like, because like I like, you're commending me for it, but I'm not really. I mean, I guess I am taking that risk, and I guess it's bold. Mm-hmm. But it's like, but anybody could do it, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, look, but you have to be comfortable. The only way it's gonna like pan out is if you're gonna be comfortable with the idea of rejection. I'm not comfortable with the idea of failure, but I am comfortable with the idea of rejection if it means I get to try again.
It's not rejection that scares me. I guess for me, I need to like break down that like personal like headspace of like, if I'm gonna have people working on something, I need to make sure they are compensated like to the fullest. I want to make sure that they're paid and all that kind of stuff. And like, like with what you were talking about, obviously with like, at the very least, like, whether it's the passion of the project or at least the favor of it, at the very least, I just need to take that first step forward and at least like present it to the world and give the general idea of like, hey, this is something I have, and if people want to help, they can, and if I really need the help, I can find some way to get the funds for it. It's just taking that first step for me.
And it doesn't have to always be such a like grandiose, like super ambitious thing. Like the thing with FUNEMPLOYED is like, I don't know how. Well, I kind of know how, but I know that project is going to come out in some kind of way. The ideal way is where it gets funded by myself, because I've been throwing money into the crowd fund too. There's like a good chunk of money that's my own.
Okay.
Because I just want to, because it's an all or nothing thing. It's fixed goal, so it's all or nothing. I've been throwing whatever money I make from freelance and the tips I have.
I'll say, time out. You're doing Indiegogo, right?
I'm doing Indiegogo, yes.
I'll say with Indiegogo is different from Kickstarter. With Indiegogo, like any money that gets pumped into it, you keep no matter what, if you hit the goal or whatnot.
Okay. You are right, but I did the fixed goal option. And looking back on it, I'm going to be a little dumb for it, but the reason why I ended up doing it is because, like we talked about before, it's like I didn't want to chip my friends. Because I was like, okay, you guys could be getting this if we get funded, and then if we only made 1,000, I didn't want to be like, okay, guys, here's what you actually get. Like that sucks. Even though they'd be okay with that, I wouldn't be okay with that.
Right.
So that's why for me it's all or nothing, and then I'll figure out if, God forbid, the Indiegogo doesn't go well. I've thought of ways like how I will get that project off the grounds. Either I start financing myself, or which isn't super ideal, or I just release the animatic, clean up the animatic, edit the animatic. I already commissioned the guy who we have doing the score, which is Eddie EWI or EDU. I don't know how to say his last. Eddie Iwi or Eddie Iwu. I think it's Eddie Iwu, but he is responsible for like all these like techno bloops and gloops that you hear on the internet sometimes. Okay. He does amazing stuff, and it's awesome that I get to work with him, or that he's working with us actually. But you know what I mean? Like in some shape or form, this project is going to come out.
Yes.
I'd like it to be animated so that way I could take it to a film festival. You can't really take an animatic to a film festival.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. Either way, I took that risk, but I did the fixed goal option because it's like, look, it's all or nothing. And like I said, like if this is like, I didn't want to chip out my friends for working on it because they're already so nice enough to be working on it.
Yeah.
So I want to give them the reasonable, I want to give them a reasonable sum of money, even though, like I said, like, it's like, I don't know. Like I said, it just feels like something I have to do. It just feels like something I have to do.
So what the audience out there should do is, hearing how much Mike absolutely loved this project and really wants to get this thing off the ground, if you have not already, go ahead and help with the Indiegogo for FUNEMPLOYED, because it like, I hadn't even talked about the project myself. Honestly, like seeing what you have teased or whatnot, like I absolutely love it. I cannot get enough of it. Like the art style is fun. The concept alone is like, it's simple, it's goofy, but I love it. Like,
and it's going full circle. The main inspiration for that is campy 2000s buddy comedies.
Yeah, exactly.
Just 2000, campy 2000s movies, and also a couple other things that isn't so campy, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a big inspiration.
I was getting, like, just looking at the art style alone and like what the situation was, I was getting like vibes of like the animated Clerk series,
There you go. That's another one. Yeah, like I said, my friends want me to shut up about Kevin Smith so bad, but
hey, sorry, no, man. Time out. I was gonna say, never shut up about Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is a fucking gem, and he is someone that I would dream to have on this podcast. Okay.
No, yeah, and you know what? I met him a couple times because I actually submitted X Marks the Aardvark on Patrick's behalf to his film festival. He owns a movie theater in Atlantic Highlands called Smodcastle, and like, not a lot of people showed up to the theater, honestly, but the fact that like something that I played in my hero's theater, like that was huge. And what I love about Kevin too, and I give a lot of credit to the voice actors I've met at conventions and all that kind of stuff, is that like what's great about Kevin and what I strive to be is like, I know Kevin doesn't always make the best movies, but like he is such a great person.
Yeah.
He's the first celebrity I ever met where I felt like we were really on the same playing field. And I think that's because he just has such great like communication skills, but he's also like modest enough.
Yeah. He understands where he came from more than anything else. I mean,
what I mean? Yeah. There's no ego there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a love for himself and what he wants to do. And like I said, like there's a couple movies I'm not going to deny that, a little rough, but it's like I commend him for staying committed to just doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like
what you're appealing to that niche,
just like what you're trying to do with all these incredible projects and all these different aspects, and FUNEMPLOYED, which once again, if you guys can, please support the Indiegogo because it is an absolutely amazing thing, and I cannot wait to see. Like what you're planning, not just with, I mean, obviously you have the idea for the pilot episode, but like some of the weird and wacky like situations you could put like the main characters on, like for the rest, for however long you want to do this thing.
I really want to do, if we get to do at least like one more, I really want to do this Christmas special where
yes,
they don't have like they do the best they can to host like Christmas, or to like have Christmas on their budget. And the one thing is missing is like cookies, and they don't have any cookies, so they can't go to the store and buy cookies. So, but every house on the block has cookies on a plate right now, and maybe if we could steal, it's like, so maybe it would feel a lot better. And maybe Santa will give us the stuff that we want if we take just one cookie, just one from every house. They wouldn't even know it's gone. And yeah, it's breaking and entering, but we're not robbing. We're just stealing a cookie. And then
so you guys can't tell me after hearing that alone, you do not want to see this thing funded.
and from that point on, they Grinch it and they dress up and they try their best to dress up as Santa and a reindeer, and they have but the thing is that they lack social skills, so they don't really commit to the roles very well, and they so
I was gonna say, like, either that, or if you were to do like a Christmas special with that kind of thing, like have them think that they're like signed up to help out Santa, but it's actually like some random mall Santa at like this low end like mall that only has like 2 kids in the entire place.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, regardless, like that just like the concept alone leads a lot to the imagination. I cannot wait to see where you get to go with it. But like, just hearing like the risks that you're taking, like with yourself, with doing these kind of things, having a hand in all sorts of different projects, on all different aspects of it, whether you're lending your voice, lending your writing skills, or lending your time to edit these things together. Just thinking to your entire like journey as an artist, from whenever you were young, wanting to be involved with, loving these animation stuff like that. Are you more or less impressed with how far you've been able to come along as an artist?
I didn't think I'd be doing any of this. I like I said, I didn't think I would really ever be able to. I don't know if like, I guess to be on the I mean, I guess I was always like that. I guess that's not. Maybe I'm not giving myself too much credit there, because I've always been do or die about this. Like we were talking about. Like if I'm not going to do this, then I'm not doing anything else. Like I have that kind of conversation with my parents, and my parents, like they are cautiously supportive. I understand it, so they constantly tell me, it's like, so what are you going to do if film doesn't work out? Then I'll write. So what are you going to do if writing doesn't work out? Then I'll edit. What if editing doesn't work out? Then I'll voice act. What if voice acting doesn't work out? At that point, I die. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, if nothing works out, then what? You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, it's that good I mean, it's a mentality that some people don't understand, but like, again, as a creative myself, like I get where you're coming from, and like I think with how you've been able to assert yourself in the animation field and all these different aspects, like something's got to click.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of have to stick to your guns, and you kind of have to be a little stupid. I don't know if stupid is the right word, but in the sense where it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna risk it. But at least you can like, I don't know. Because I don't even know. I don't want to say. I don't want to say. At least you can look back if it doesn't work out. Because I don't want to. Like if I look back and it doesn't work out, I'm gonna be like, oh.
At least you could say that you tried instead of looking back and be like, man, I wish I did this. Man, I wish I had gone for that.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so many people that pick up jobs or work jobs, and I get it because like you need that money. I totally get it. But I don't know. Like if your only incentive with the job that you do is to just get paid or the money's good, like it is going to be harder and harder to work that job. Yep. I mean, because that could only sustain your needs for so long. I mean, obviously, like at least you'll have the money, but it's like, are you going to be like happy doing it? Because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it, So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's so. Like I said, I mean, that's really it. It's like it's just like it's just something that a lot of us feel where it's just like we're scared.
Yep.
It's a big risk. I mean, like the industry is constantly changing, and the industry itself is like kind of been in shambles. But that's why I also like I'm comfortable with the indie scene right now. I love the indie scene. I went to Pico Day a couple weeks ago, which is the Newgrounds meetup.
Okay.
And I met so many amazing people like Serpello, Hannah Daigle. I met the guys who did Bridge Kids.
Okay.
Like amazing people. And then it's just like, this is all like, this is just, I mean, it's just so nice. It's just a collective of artists. And it's like, man, you really hope that it's like, you don't only hope that like you're going to be able to work with these people, but you hope that these people are going to like they're going to like, cause they're so capable of doing amazing things. Like you hope it's going to work out for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, like that's what I was talking about, where it's just like, I have influences from the industry, but like the people that I've worked with have been like my biggest inspirations, for the last couple of years. And they're the people that come to my mind first before anybody who's made it. Like I've neglected to mention them, but I do stuff with C204, and everybody there is so great. And I got to at least mention like Dan Delgado, who does The Boys, who you should also have on this podcast.
Okay.
He subverts all my expectations or standards of what I think like what you can and can't do when you're making an indie cartoon, where I was talking about this stuff where it's like, well, you shouldn't make something over 10 minutes or else that's never going to happen if you have no budget. They make stuff that's like 16 to like 18 minutes, and it's got compositing, and it's like all this amazing animation. It's like, what, how? But it's because like Dan is like such a good leader. He's so talented. And not only that, it's such a good concept. And it's like everybody on that, like I said, it's just a great group of like people that not only are collaborators, but they're friends. And like, that's the dream, to be like working with your friends who just so happen to know how to make amazing stuff.
Absolutely. So for this next question, if I may, let's get all of that combined, but add the money that the other hand is wanting, more or less, and give you more or less, Mikey, the dream scenario, if I may. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I get to come up to you and I'm like, look, Mikey, we've seen what you've been able to do. We've seen all the different aspects and all the little fingerprints you've had on all these incredible projects, and we know you could do a little bit more. You just need a little extra push, a little extra platform to really get you there. We have access to everyone and anyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than should be possible. We really should be compensating the animators. That strike is coming up really, really, really soon at this point. If it's already happening, we'll focus on them in a little bit. Right now, we're focusing on you and you alone. Yeah. If given this opportunity, what would be the dream Mikey McGold project?
Well, first off, if anybody told me that, I'd wait for the cameras to roll out.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, because I'd wait for the prank. I'd be like, yeah, just kidding. The dream project, honestly, and the thing is too, where the dream, I don't know if I really have such a dream project, in the sense that I like being able to like just work on like things constantly where it's like if Terrestrially Challenged ever goes to series, which would be really cool, I'd be so down for that.
Yeah.
But I'm so okay with it being. We've even talked about that. We were talking about like if we ever did like a series, like it would begin with like Osnet and Yugo like scraping off the charred remains of Dick, and they clone him. And the only thing that's different about him is that he has Elroy Jetson's hat. Like that's the only thing that's different. And then they go on space adventures, and I'd be so down for that. But if it just stays as this one self-contained little short film, I'm okay with that too. I like the challenge of like only having characters, handling characters once. If I get to write them and play them multiple times, I'm cool with that too. But it's gonna sound so cheesy, but the Dream Mikey McGold project is just whatever anybody asks me to do next.
That's a good thing to aspire for more than anything else. How about this? How about this? We'll give you the money or whatnot. Go to some of these other indie anime people that you talk about, like, Patrick or Dan or whatnot. Yeah. Just give them the money so you can be like, make what you want.
If I could do that, that'd be great. I'd love to be that. I mean, if I had that disposable income, I would be so doing that. But I guess the Dream Mikey McGold project, I guess the whole point, fun. I don't know, but I love all my babies, Nathan. I love all my babies,
I mean, we could do the studio option to where we just give you your own studio and you can fund all the projects that you want.
That would be cool. I would like that.
There you go.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of hard.
Make Mutant Mind Studio an actual like physical studio place where y'all can make the stuff that you want.
That I would so do that because I love every moment I get to work with Patrick.
There you go.
So.
Well, there you go.
And everybody,
I mean, hey, if nothing else, like the possibility is like I give this option every single time or whatnot, but obviously it's gonna be a different answer every single time. And like if all you want to do is just more of what you're doing now, just with more opportunities to do it, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, and I'll ask the ever so generic question. Where do you hope to see yourself in, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
Living.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, you look outside, it sucks, man. No, but doing what I'm doing now, being with the people who I am with now, but I get to do it full time. I don't have to put on my work boots and go back to the clip on the shackles of retail, So that would be it.
Honestly, that's a thing I think every creative would aspire for at the end of the day. Yeah. As we start to wind down the interview, Mikey, I just got one last question I want to ask you. Shoot. Obviously, you have been deeply entrenched in art for as long as you can remember. Art, animation, all its different aspects. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole? I'd
argue that art is so much more important than what we give it credit for. I mean, you think of those. Think about how many schools does like scholarships for the guy who plays football. Yeah. But doesn't spend a dime on like the arts or anything. Stories are important to people. And not only that, the greatest thing about storytelling is that it will create a chain reaction of inspiration that leads to more stories. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about it, where even if your thing doesn't do well and only gets a couple of people, but sometimes it always inspires one to do what you did. So I'd say that. I think it's a lot. It's super important for the sake of that. It keeps the motion going. And if everybody stopped creating art, then it'd be hard for people to keep doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself. Mikey, that is all the questions I have for you. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, but I want to shower you a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do whatever the fuck I want. Uh,
I slip you a 20 every time you compliment me. Just be honest with your viewers.
Shit. Okay, hold on. Let me give you my PayPal. We can get that actually going. No,
Yeah.
no. But in all seriousness, like Mikey, you have been one of those names that I've definitely seen out there ever since I've really started this podcast. You've been one of the ones that I've seen really involved with the indie animation scene. And I really admire how you're able to put yourself out there in one way or another.
Yeah.
You're a underrated talent, in my opinion, for those in the indie animation scene. If people do not know who you are just yet, they need to, because you're doing some absolutely fun stuff with some incredible people. Whether it is the writing aspect, telling incredible stories, whether it's the voice acting aspect, really acting out some incredible fun roles here and there, and whether it's the editing aspect where you get to really put the pieces together and put forth an incredible piece of animation. Like, you're doing a lot of incredible stuff and then some, and it makes me excited to see what you're doing next. That's why whenever you asked to be on here to promote FUNEMPLOYED, which again, for people, if you haven't already, Indiegogo, link in the description below, please help Mikey get to that point to where that's a reality. Like, whenever you ask, I did not hesitate when thinking, absolutely, let's get you on the podcast. Like,
Thank you.
I really do appreciate. I appreciate how much you love and support this indie animation sphere, and I really appreciate how much you're putting yourself into it. And I sincerely hope that it's able to give back dividends more than anything else. Long and short of it is, thank you for what you do. Keep up the incredible work, and
thank you. Let me compliment you real quick. I just want to shower you with praise because you have. I mean, I'm sure you've confirmed it multiple times. I knew it before, even if you said no, but like, you really do care a lot about this community to put people on this podcast and give them their couple minutes of spotlight. And you know, I think you're such a crusader for that. Honestly, yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's like exceptional that, you know, you bring on podcasts, you bring a lot of people on the podcast. Bulk majority of them are underground talent. You know, you have your like kind of internet celebs here and there. But I just, you know, like I said, I'm sure everybody is just as honored as I was to just be brought on and just talk to you. So thank you.
At the end of the day, like, I'm just doing the same thing for others as I would like to have for myself at some point. You know, just I know you put a lot of love and passion to what you're doing, and I just want to make sure that's recognized at the end of the day. So, and there's a lot of people out there that, you know, I've said this ever since the start. There are a lot of people that will just push something out there and then it gets, you know, maybe a handful of views or a handful of likes or whatnot, and doesn't get that love and respect that they deserve for the love and passion they put into that piece. So I want to at least let them know that, hey, what you're doing is absolutely incredible and keep it up. Just like for you, what you've been able to have a hand in is absolutely incredible. Keep up the awesome work, because I'm excited to see what's next.
Thank you, Nathan. I really appreciate that.
Now, if people want to know why exactly I've been gushing about all this different aspects that you've been able to have your fingerprints on, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people at home.
I'm Mikey McGold on Twitter, Instagram, Newgrounds, everything. On the back of my underwear, my name's Mikey McGold, I guess. So, you know, probably. But that's pretty much it. And I'm doing a lot of cool things. There's another short that we did, the Mutant Minds team did, it was actually the first one, but kind of got put on hiatus to finish the other two. But the first student film we did is finished, and we want some time for Terrestrially Challenged to breathe. And then we're going to release Trials for Miles. I'm doing some cool stuff with C204. I didn't have much of a hand in episode 3 as I did episode 2. I do voice a character though, but they're doing some exceptional work on their 3rd episode, and they're just doing great things over there, and doing stuff with D-Tunes. Yeah, so I mean, make sure, but I mean, definitely check me out. But any of the names I listed too are just as crucial to my success. So the people that I mentioned deserve all the credit and praise too, because I only get to be doing this because they took a chance on me, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Absolutely. I'll be sure to have all your links down below, and the people that you mentioned, their links will be down below as well to make sure they get that love and respect. And more importantly, the first link that's going to be there is, once again, the FUNEMPLOYED Indiegogo, which, once again, if you guys have not already, if you can't donate, at least spread the word. Like, let other people know about this fun project, because it's gonna be something fun. I can tell you that for sure. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Thanks for having me on. I wish I had a funnier way to go out on, but I'm just super pleased that we ended up getting to do this, and hopefully we cross paths again. And I would love to stay in touch and all that stuff. And hopefully when I get my podcast back off the ground, I'll have you on.
Oh, if none else, definitely have me and Tipsy on, because that'd be more in line with the Indiemation part of it. We could talk. We could talk about the Evil Little thing, because I know she would love to talk her head off about that.
Great. And
trust me, we're definitely gonna be crossing paths again. We're definitely gonna be keeping in touch, because if nothing else, this conversation, it was sweet.
That was a great send off. Perfect.
I was gonna say the little send off I'm gonna do is, for the people at home, if you can, pay your artists.
Please.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me it's parts in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can't open. Show me it all, put me up in the car, you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I greatly do appreciate it. Like I said in the intro, Mikey is someone that I've been able to see how they've been able to grow thanks to this incredible indie animation community. And Mikey, if you've gotten up to this point, thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for having a good time more than anything else. It was a real treat to finally get a chance to really talk with you, because I've been wanting to chat with you for a while, I'll be honest with you, bud. And on top of that, seeing what you're able to do, all the stuff you've been able to have a hand in or whatnot, I can't help but be impressed, man. You're doing fantastic stuff, and I can't wait to see how much further you get to go. You know, I've been having the same thoughts about myself as of late, thinking back to the podcast and how long we've been doing this, as we're slowly but surely encroaching 4 years of the podcast. Casual flex, I know. No, but you know, with what I've been able to accomplish with this and all the cool opportunities I've been able to do, I can't help but just be impressed with what I've been able to do. I mean, there's no other way to word it, to be honest. I'm just, I constantly ask my guests if they're surprised with how far they've been able to come along in their art journey. And I can easily say the same for myself. Thinking back to, starting out with, just a concept, an idea, that I get a chance to talk to some incredible artists, and hopefully other people will enjoy it. To see it grow to this point to where we're about to do some pretty cool stuff here in the short-term future. It has me excited, Has me excited with what I have been able to accomplish, and it makes me excited to see what more there is to do. I know with next week's episode, it's going to be a really big one. It's a milestone, and it's something that I've always wanted to do with this podcast. It's a dream come true with it. That's the only tease I'll give you guys. For those that know, well, that's because they're in the episode. But regardless, I can't wait for you guys to see next week's episode. And I can't wait to see what more I can do with this podcast. I've been debating as of late certain aspects of it. Nothing too drastic. Obviously, I'm still going to be interviewing artists. Obviously, I'm still going to be me or whatnot. But certain aesthetics might change. I still don't know yet. But what I do know is at the end of the day, I'm still going to keep doing this because what I've been able to do so far is absolutely incredible. And I can't wait to see what's next. And I sincerely hope you guys stay along with the journey to see how much more we can do, how much more we can grow as a podcast, and just how cool it is to have this community. Thank you guys for the love and support, sincerely, for throughout all the years. Whether you were one of the first people to follow the podcast or you've only recently joined because of some of the artists that have been on here. Your support really does mean a lot, and I do not take it for granted. That's why I try to give it back to you guys as much as I can. Thank you.